Welcome to the CGIAR Periscope Live interview series at the Global Conference on Agriculture Research for Development in Johannesburg, South Africa. My name is Georgina Smith and I'm the Communications Coordinator for the International Centre for Tropical Agriculture based in Nairobi. And I'm joined by the Director for the Pan-African Bean Research Alliance, Dr. Robin Buruchara. Good morning, thank you for joining us. Can you introduce yourself and tell us about the key research themes that PABRA is tackling?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Georgina. My name is Robin Buruchara, as I've heard, and my position now is the Director of Pan-African Bean Research Alliance. Pan-African Bean Research Alliance is really a consortium of 3 bean networks in Africa, and the main focus is really contributing to food security and nutrition, addressing the issues of income, and also aspects of managing the natural resources. But the drive of all this is really working in value chain, and this drives the efforts of productivity and in trying to achieve the food security and nutrition which also been contribute.
So that touches on one of the key themes that the conference has been discussing, which is about scaling up. So what are some of the challenges faced in Africa to scaling up technologies? And can you give an example of how PABRA is dealing with that?
I think the issue of scaling up or generally having technologies reach the end users is a challenge in Africa, considering that in a lot of countries the system of extension has challenges. It's not very efficient. Occasionally you get partners who contribute in that, but not in a systematic way. So the approaches that we've been trying is to see how you could set up or encourage partnerships, and partners, particularly local, who work with research and link up research outputs to the end users. Now this includes a number of stakeholders. Could be government, and in a number of cases government do contribute, but also you find that there are other NGOs, both local and international, and the role of private sector really has increased, particularly in the seed systems, by bridging and supporting seed production, and also ensuring that this seed reaches the end users. So what PABRA really does is working with all these stakeholders, and PABRA has several of these stakeholders across the many countries that we work. We work in 30 countries, and the idea is to encourage these stakeholders at national level to support the technologies developed by research and are able to be delivered to the end users. And by doing this, we have had good rate of seed delivery and technology delivery in several countries and regions.
So how do you demonstrate that? I mean, can you give us an example of how to demonstrate the impact that you've had? So, for example, I've been hearing about something called white gold. Could you tell us about what white gold is and how that shows PABRA's impact?
An example of white gold in Ethiopia is an interesting one, and first of all, I like to state that the contribution of the Ethiopian government in support of this has been very exemplary. Now, white gold is really a variety of bean called the white pea bean. It's a canning bean. It's a very marketable product. It's used both in the region and internationally. And the partnership between research, the private sector, and the government, research and extension services helped quite a lot. The market was the driver. The market both in Europe and in the Middle East was the driver, but it brought all these stakeholders together. And the results was that the research contributed in developing varieties which are marketable. The private sector led and facilitated the market segment of the work, linking the farmers who produce to the market. As a result, over time, there's been a steady increase in terms of production and export of that particular varieties, say from a level of about 20 million, of value about $20 million per year to now, which is close to 100 million. But this has also resulted in the increase in what farmers get in terms of income. It has also resulted in the increase in the area of production of these particular varieties. And also, because of that, it has encouraged use of input and productivity in Ethiopia. And because of this, it has been valued as a valuable crop and actually features in the commodity, exchange in Ethiopia.
Another challenge that's been discussed is that of climate change and the impact of climate change on key crops. How do you make sure that the research at PABRA is future focused, taking into account climate change?
I think climate change is a fact and is meant to impact negatively on the production of beans and another crop in future. In PABRA, we have considered how could we address the challenges that we'll face in terms of climate change. And I think notable among these is the drought and the heat and the variability of these key elements which are associated with climate change. So what PABRA has been doing is developing strategies that will help farmers to mitigate these effects. In terms of research, what we've tried to do is to develop varieties which are drought tolerant, but also in varieties which are tolerant to heat, and also in looking at systems and getting information, working with other sectors on how other aspects can be integrated in the practices that farmers use. As you appreciate, the challenges of climate change in terms of variability, which are seasonal, but also in terms of the long-term effect. And I think we have to report that the work that is done at CIAT headquarters and with partners in the region, we have been able to develop varieties that tolerate heat, about 2 degrees, centigrade, above the normal growing environment of beans. This allows these beans to grow actually in a wide area or in an environment which may be due to, the change in time and the change in climate change. So, in short, is really we are developing strategies of how to mitigate by developing technologies which preempt some of the changes that we anticipate in future.
So when we talk about sustaining the business of farming into the future, how do we include women and children and the youth in that process? Does PABRA have a strategy to include more women and youth?
PABRA, bean is a crop that is commonly grown by women. So women play a central role in its production. As such, all the efforts that we do, consider that fact that is a women's crop. And since they participate in its production, in its marketing, we consider how they benefit. So what we see, there are elements that we believe beans do benefit the women. One is in income, and another is in food security and nutrition, particularly for the children. We have varieties now which are high iron, and we target them to benefit the women and the children. Now, in terms of addressing strategies to ensure that they benefit, we've developed an approach of marketing, developing value chains, some which are actually linked with contributing to nutrition. And we are using an approach we call, bean market corridors. Basically, what we talk here about is that it's how can we develop a platform where we can structure the marketing of beans. Beans right now, it's sold, is a very marketable crop. It's one of the most traded crop in East Africa, but the marketing is not structured. So the approach of PABRA is how can we support that market to be structured so that the benefits of the actors is much more ensured and more sustained. And because of that, in this we consider that some of the actors in this should be women. They're the ones who play a role in trading and marketing, but also should be the ones benefiting from it. We also see opportunities where the youth can play a role. Now, if we develop a market, we talk about the bean corridors, really what we are looking at is how the producers are supported to produce marketable varieties. How do we have actors who can facilitate collection and farmers, grouping farmers together so that they can have a bargaining power? How do we identify markets where these products can be sold and have those linked up in a way that they all benefit, and at the end, the women who produce and market benefit, but also we see opportunities for the youth to come in and also play a role, and also because they may be interested in things like ICT, and we see communication and linking ICT playing a role, or even trading, where the youth can also have an opportunity. And in Africa, we have now identified about 8 bean corridors, and we hope that in supporting this, we'll be able to help and identify opportunities for both women and the youth to play a role and also benefit.
So if I'm a farmer, what does the bean corridor approach mean to me?
I think as a farmer is that one, they should be able to contribute, because this corridor is an area where market activities will play a role. But in playing that role, the research will contribute in developing the varieties and supporting their dissemination, working with actors and partners to ensure that as a farmer you get those varieties. Secondly, there should be mechanisms to support, information about production, inputs, and at the same time, there should be mechanism to support aggregation of the product and the produce, so that you don't sell as an individual, but you sell collectively, so that you can enhance your bargaining power and therefore be able to get a better price for what you do. And also, if we bring in ICT and other services which may be required by producers as a farmer, then there are opportunities that you'll also benefit. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Buruchara.
Thank you very much.